Welcome back to Community Groups, guys. Back before Christmas and we took our time off, we started a series on the book of Philippians. Tonight, I get to pick up where Ben left off. A big part of this series is that we want to equip you guys to study the Bible for yourselves. So we're going to be going through the whole book, spending some time in each chapter. Now, last time, Ben showed you how to zoom in on one particular detail in Philippians 1. I'm going to show you another way you can approach the Bible by zooming out a little bit and looking at the structure of the whole chapter. Does anybody like puzzles? I'm not much a puzzler myself, but a few weeks ago, I was out at our Wanakee HSM community group, shout out Wanakee, and the host family had this awesome puzzle set up on the kitchen table with some crazy pieces like this. Now, this puzzle piece is great. I like the shape of it. It's got these weird rounded bubble edges. There's a cute little mouse in a kimono, and he's holding either a snow cone or a rattle. I don't know exactly what it is. It's a pretty cool piece, but it gets even better if we're able to slot it in with its other puzzle piece friends to form the bigger picture. A lot of passages, especially the New Testament letters, are composed of multiple parts and themes that fit together to make a point. Now, writing letters back then was really expensive, so every word was chosen carefully and arranged to send the audience a specific message. Take Paul's letter to the Philippians. Paul wrote this letter to the church in Philippi because when he was in prison, they sent somebody to care for him. Now, Roman prisons were very different from modern prisons like we have today. If you didn't have people bringing you food, you didn't eat. And so when the Christians in Philippi heard Paul was in jail for sharing the good news, they sent a man named Epaphroditus to care for him. Remember that name, we're going to come back to it in a little bit. Paul wrote this letter in part to thank the Philippians for caring for him, for partnering with him in bringing the gospel to the world. This week, we're talking about chapter 2 of that letter. Today, I want to show you how the different parts of this chapter fit together to point us in a certain direction. And right from the get-go, we're reminded that we're jumping back into the middle of a long thought that Paul is making. You may or may not know this, but when this letter was being written, those big numbers and little verse numbers for the chapters and verses, they weren't there. Those were added much later by editors to help us navigate the Bible. So when we approach a chapter like this, just remember we're jumping into the middle of a letter and possibly even in the middle of a thought. So when he says, if there is any encouragement in Christ, any comfort from love, any participation in the Spirit, any affection and sympathy, complete my joy by being of the same mind, having the same love, being in full accord and of one mind, Paul is linking the need for the Philippians to have unity to the fact that they're going to face trials because of their faith. As a result of that, Paul spends the rest of verses 1 through 4 telling them that they need to be putting the needs of each other above their own. That's what unity looks like, putting others first. Then he shifts in verses 5 through 11. He stops talking about the church and launches into this short poem about Jesus. It's almost as if he's pausing to respond to the unasked question of, why should we do that, Paul? These verses form the main idea for the entire letter. Jesus, more than anyone who ever lived, had every right to put himself first. He was God after all, the king over all creation. And yet, Paul says, he made himself nothing by taking the very nature of a servant. Being made in human likeness and being found in appearance as a man, he humbled himself by becoming obedient to death, even death on a cross. He put our needs before his own, even submitting himself to be killed. That's putting others before yourself. And we're supposed to follow his example. Now, look at verses 12 through 18. Paul's given them their motivation. Through submitting himself to others, Jesus was elevated to the right hand of God. Therefore, continue to work out your own salvation. Now, words like so, therefore, and because are important because they tell us why something is being said. They're linking words, like this part of the puzzle, this little piece that juts out, that connects it to the others. They show us that this part goes with the part before it. Paul has given them the reason behind why he's asking them to obey this command to be unified. Do it because Jesus did it first. Finally, in verses 19 through 30, Paul seems to make a completely hard left turn and starts talking about two of his friends, Timothy and Epaphroditus. Now, if you haven't been paying attention, this might seem random, but think about it. I told you to remember the name Epaphroditus. What does he say about each of these guys? Timothy, he says, I have no one else like him who will show genuine concern for your welfare. And Epaphroditus, well, he risked his life for the gospel. He got sick taking care of Paul to the point of almost dying. These are examples of the self-sacrifice he's been describing. He wants the church in Philippi to learn from these two as folks who have put what he's been saying so far into practice, and also let them know that Epaphroditus is doing okay. Now, something cool happens when we look at the structure of Philippians 2 as a whole. We see this movement from one idea to the next and how they build on one another to make a stronger point. We see it both in how chapter 2 fits together and how chapter 2 fits in with the chapters around it. It's like how individual pieces of a puzzle can have cool features on their own, like that mouse in the piece I showed you earlier, but we really see what they're for when we put them together with the whole. When we study the Bible, we want to take special care to notice how ideas are connected and flow from one to another. This helps us understand what God is saying to his people.